What if I told you that failing twice could be the secret to achieving FIRE? I am so excited to be joined today by Travis, who didn't let two failed businesses get in the way of achieving financial independence. So, how did he do it? We'll find out if that third one was the charm. Travis, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to talk to you.
Good to be here.
Travis, let's jump into your money story, how you became financially independent. How did you discover the FIRE movement?
You know, it's funny. There are a lot of things that my wife and I, that we did along the way that we didn't know what to call it. Like, we did a live and flip early in our marriage because we wanted to get in a neighborhood that we couldn't afford. And the only way we could get into that said neighborhood is to buy the crappiest house on the block. Then we lived in there for a few years and sold it, made some money. Like, I think our experience with the FI community is similar to that there were a lot of things along the way that we were doing. And then maybe sometime in like 2018, 19, 20, we thought we stumbled upon the FIRE community and thought, oh, okay. So we've been doing some of that. And some of it's simple common sense, like keep your head down, live on less than you make, invest as much as you can. But it was probably in the last 5 years that we've stumbled upon, whether it's BiggerPockets or the common financial independence, retire early sites or resources online. So I think we kind of stumbled into it after we had, been on the slow and steady path to building wealth and hopefully making smart financial decisions.
What were some of these smart financial decisions you were making?
Just living on less than we make and doing hard things, living an inconvenient life. I mean, we would always max out our Roth, throw a good chunk in a SEP IRA. We did 2 live-in flips. We kind of accidentally got into real estate in early 2020. We bought a vacation summer getaway property because we lived in Houston, didn't know what the heck we were going to do with our kids in the summer. So we bought what we thought would be a short-term rental in the Pacific Northwest, and we didn't know our backside from third base, and the local ordinances would not allow us to do a short-term rental. So then we discovered what a midterm rental was. And then from there, I think just the slow and steady accumulation of wealth from investments and just the try, fail, and adjust over time, and continuing to have some success in, both my career and my wife's career, and relatively speaking, keeping our lifestyle at the same level as our income went up.
So you said that you spent less than you made. Did you intentionally live off of one of your salaries, or did you have a FIRE number in mind that you were trying to get to so that you could, take that capital and do something with it? What's that look like for you?
All of these answers are kind of this know what you want, take what you can get situation. So we had some goals. We used to be locked in on our budget the first few years of our marriage and very plan specific focus. We got to a point where we just wanted to be directionally correct and be kind to ourselves and not have to have the first Sunday of the month, not fight, but just dig in on the budget. So I would say, generally speaking, we had some goals, but we also faced the reality of life and young kids and daycare, and the car breaks down and, we found a cheap flight to Europe. I want to go to Europe. Budget be damned. Let's go to Europe. So it's kind of this, yes, directionally, and depending on the season, sometimes, like most of us, a little more focused from one season to the next.
Okay, you mentioned that you kind of backed into FI and, you didn't have somewhat of a plan, but did you ever have a FI number? And was there a timeline that you had to achieve that goal?
There wasn't. We figured out that middle class wealth trap that we needed to get things pushed up from 59.5 to where we currently were. And it was okay, this is what we have. I think this is what we need to live off of. And then in the middle of that, I sold a business that just pushed that timeline forward. So sure, we had this goal of, hey, if we get, $100,000 in cash flow from rentals, then we can do this. But then the sale of a business pushed that timeline up and we reassessed.
Yeah. It sounds like you were doing everything right. but you didn't really have like a, you know, a direct goal or plan that you're working towards, and you were flexible with everything. Was there a time that things did shift? You did mention that, you know, kids, etc., but was there something that happened in your life that shifted you towards more of a less budget focused life into a more relaxed life, is what it sounds like?
We were making more. We paid off the house as well. That had a lot to do with it. And I do think that part of that, to answer the question about the FI goal, is that it was so far off that being specific felt counterproductive and unrealistic.
That makes a lot of sense. I can understand how you would think that.
Travis, you mentioned that you sold a business. What kind of business did you sell, and how much did you take home after that sale?
Yeah, it was I'd sold one business in 2013 for $185,000. And that actually is what gave us a lot of financial traction, is that it was a seller finance deal that I sold the business on. So I went and got another job. And then over the course of 3 years, I think it was close to 3 years, $5,000 per month on that. So I was making a good income, got an extra $5,000 a month on top of that. And that's what fast forwarded a lot of our investment goals. And then in 2024, I sold a business for approximately $600,000. And in both cases, I didn't have any partners. So outside of paying the IRS, we took all of that home.
You were making this $5,000. Did you say that was a month? $5,000 a month? That's
Correct.
Close. That should be close to what your expenses are, correct?
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay. So essentially selling this business on this like seller financing deal for 3 years got you, I mean, it sounds like you could have lived on that 5,000 if you chose to, and yet you got another job. So now you've got this income. Your wife is still working at the time?
She was, yes.
Okay. So you've got a lot of this income. Where are you investing this?
We were maxing out a Roth, maxing out a SEP, paying off the house. I also, the business that I'd sold for $600,000 in 2016, I'd bought a small book of business for about $70,000. So the money to buy that business came from that savings as well.
I have a very random question that I want to ask. You've mentioned paying off your house twice. Did you guys celebrate that milestone at all, or do something to like say, wow, we did this?
Yeah, there's so few people you can actually share it with, though. It feels so braggy and stupid. And, you know, I didn't come from a family, neither did my wife, my parents do now that they're, you know, pushing 70, but we didn't pay off our house. And there were a few close friends and a family member or two that we did celebrate that with, but you can't shout from the rooftops, like, look at me, we don't have a mortgage. But that first month where we didn't have a house payment, like, that felt better than it should have. It felt really good.
That's really cool, especially if you do have kids or dependents, or maybe some uncertainty in your future because that $5,000 is going away because the business is finally paid off. I think that's such a cool time in your life to be able to really step back and look. And I think, Mindy, maybe you guys are good at this. I am terrible at celebrating the milestones. So it's nice to know that at least you got to share it with a few people, though I know it's kind of hard.
I did get a call from my father-in-law that day or that month when it happened, of this, just like, I got the attaboy and I'm proud of you, that I never got from my own dad. And like, I held on to that for a long time.
I love it. I love it. That's really nice.
So you were maxing out your 401k, you were maxing out your Roth IRA during this time. You said that you didn't get into real estate until 2020. What was the impetus for getting into real estate? I remember 2020. I'm a real estate agent, and the beginning of COVID was not really the time to get into real estate. And then all of a sudden it exploded. Did you buy during the explosion, or did you buy in the beginning of 2020?
We closed in February of 2020.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you. That's just,
No.
you don't laugh, you'll cry.
I make the joke that I think that a lot of people find BiggerPockets either before they make their first investment or after they make a bad one. And I joke that it was a condo in Portland, Oregon, like in the urban core. I joke that I managed to find the only property in America that went down in value from 2020 to 2025.
Oh,
Yes, that's correct.
congratulations on that success.
We did it. The one silver lining, we've kept it. The rents have gone up probably 60%. So that's made it an okay investment. And it's just a fun place that we like to go to. And that's why we bought it initially. It was more of a summer getaway property, not as an investment, because we didn't know what we were doing. And the idea of owning a vacation place was appealing and we could swing it. And then only after we bought that did we start to educate ourselves and think, okay, this could be a rental. How do we do that?
Was this the one that you couldn't actually short-term rent?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay, so what did you do with this property?
It became a midterm rental.
Okay. So for those listening who are unfamiliar with the terms, short-term rental is less than 30 days stay per stay, and midterm rental is 30 days or more. So you're renting it out for like a month at a time. It's kind of like a month-to-month rental. Typically, midterm rentals are furnished, so they're just like a longer short-term rental. Did you ever consider renting it as a long-term rental, or did the numbers just not make sense?
The numbers just didn't work. I mean, we did get lucky. It's about a mile from the biggest hospital in Oregon. So we saw a lot of travel nurse demand, and that's still there, but it's probably a third of our tenant base that are travel nurses.
Yeah, the travel nurse boom during COVID kind of has calmed down a little bit now. So what was your next real estate purchase?
So I will say that property was our training wheels property. Our next rental purchase, we thought we wanted to buy a short-term rental, and I think that the best advice I'd give to anyone getting into any real estate investment is to lean into what you already know and figure out what you have some sort of subject matter expertise at, rather than just look on a map, throw a dart, and like, oh, Tennessee, that's a good market. So we as a family had been to 38 of the big 63 national parks. So we knew national parks. We knew families going to national parks. My wife was a designer by trade, so we know how to furnish a space and make it look good. We went on about a 12 to 14 month journey of research and self-education and landed on Acadia National Park as the market that we chose. And we bought a 5-bedroom cosmetic fixer that's about 15 miles outside of Acadia that we, in winter and spring of 2022, we were up in Maine, gosh, once every 4 or 5 weeks. And then at the end, we moved in for about the final 6 weeks to finish all of the renovation and furnishing.
And did you buy this with the intent of renting it out short-term or medium-term?
100% short-term. And this was a pure investment. We went into this one open-eyed and informed and educated. The last one was kind of I don't know, you want to get a place? That sounds like fun. And this was, hey, we know what we're doing for the most part. We know what we're trying to accomplish, and we kind of came in much more informed and educated.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, it is not an unusual story to hear somebody who has bought their first place. They're going to rent it out short term. What do you mean I can't rent it out short term per the rules of my city or the neighborhood or whatever? So it's always heartbreaking to see that. And midterm rentals are an option, but you're not the first person, and I really am sure that you won't be the last person that I hear from who did this same thing.
And what bothers me is that everybody knew but us. Every agent, every loan officer, everybody knew we couldn't do it, and they just kind of let us go right on by. And then we get into the place, and look, it turned out okay. It's fine, but it would have been great to find a real estate agent or a lender to be like, hey man, you might want to double check that, because I don't think you can do what you are trying to do. Yeah,
there's no shortage of bad real estate agents out there, and if that makes you upset, real estate agent, then maybe you need to step up your game. It's not about the money for you. It's about your client buying a property. Did you ever buy a property again with that agent?
No, but I have not bought another property in that state either. It just would have been nice to have somebody that I felt like was looking out for me, and we didn't.
They should. All of those people should be looking out for you. And at that time, I can see them saying, well, I really need this commission. I don't know who your agent is. Maybe they said something, or maybe they thought they said something, but you need to, as an agent, you need to advocate for your clients. That's why they have you working for them.
Yep. And ultimately it's my responsibility, and that's okay. But, would have been nice.
They have some responsibility too. Don't let them off the hook like that.
I sure wouldn't let them off the hook. I would also be a little bit upset in your position and have felt upset when agents have not treated me well also. So I get it.
But here's the thing. Here's the return on that. We lived in Houston for 4 more summers. I got 4 summers with my kids in the Pacific Northwest where we went and hiked to waterfalls and, picked strawberries and drove to the ocean. Like, I got the best memories with my kids because we bought that place. So I'm okay with it.
That's good. I'm glad.
You're turning a situation to a really good situation. And again, your kids will never even know all the back end of it. They just remember all those memories. So I think that's great. What's your portfolio today? And what is that monthly cash flow in the portfolio?
Yep. We have one active short-term rental, a second short-term rental that's probably 2 to 3 weeks from coming to market. Both of those are outside of Acadia National Park in Maine. We have a long-term rental in Houston, which is the house that we moved out of. We kept a midterm rental in Central Texas, about 45 miles north of Austin, in the Temple Belton area. And then we have that Portland, Oregon midterm rental that still exists. And if you count it, we had since moved from Houston to Maine after the sale of my business for a property that was going to be a short-term rental. And we're kind of turning that into a live-in flip or burr / like it's on 5 acres and we can parcel off 3 lots and build up to 3 additional structures. So they're the 2 midterms, about to be 2 short terms, 1 long term, and then the live-in flip, which down the road, probably 1, 2, 3 years, we'll look to build on this property as well.
That's wonderful. So that's some good forward-looking things. Are any other changes to your portfolio coming up?
The long-term rental in Houston, we just put that on the market. That is going to be sold. It was we had tenants in there and they just moved out, and we looked at the return on equity, what we have in that versus what the actual cash flow is, and it's appreciated at a good rate, and we wanted to hold on. Part of us was in that, let's hold out hope and see if rates come down for the spring buying season in a couple of years. But then we actually, instead of going by emotion and feeling, we actually did math and decided it probably makes the most sense to sell that. So we'll be looking at, getting rid of the long-term, 2 short-term, 2 midterm, and then kind of the live-in project we have here. And as far as money that we live off of, we have an after-tax brokerage account as well that, while it's taking a beating right now, it's hanging in there with, about $210,000. And we'll throw probably $160,000 to $170,000 from the sale of the long-term rental into that, mostly into that account.
You mentioned, so you're selling your Houston property. You'll put some of that money into your brokerage account, et cetera. But after you've sold that property, what is your monthly cash flow? Yeah,
so it will be from real estate. We'll see what this new short-term rental does, but I think it pro formas out at $12,000 to $15,000 a year in real income. So I think with that midterm, 2 midterms, 2 short terms, we'll call it around $80,000 a year.
Absolutely wonderful. That's really nice.
Hey, since we keep coming back to it, and it clearly is a point of pride for me, with part of that works because we have a paid off house and we moved to a lower cost of living area.
I think that's valid to note. There's a lot of people who want to live in these more expensive areas. That's great. But Maine is beautiful, snowy beautiful in the wintertime, but it's still, it's like so beautiful up there. I can understand why you would want to move there. Plus the lower cost of living is always a bonus. You are able to live off of the investments right now. I'm sorry. You said it generates $80,000 a year in income. Do you feel like you can live off of that?
We can. I would also call us freak out fi. We're 15 months into this. And there's that Morgan Housel principle of being optimistic and paranoid at the same time as a key to building wealth. That there is, we've got this nest egg, we've got this rental income, but we've also just spent, and we're in the middle of bleeding cash getting our next short-term rental to market. So at the same time we're spending all of this money, our after-tax brokerage account has come down by $40,000. And we're just kind of in this, oh crap, are we going to be okay? And we're going to be fine. But my wife and I also both have part-time jobs, just because I got really bored in the winter, needed something to do. And 2, it just provides a little bit of a buffer that makes us feel like we can exhale, okay, we take this money from our part-time jobs, we sit it in this other account, and come December, January for the slow season on our short-term rentals, we can live off of that. We can, sell a little bit of the after-tax brokerage account, in January, February, March. So that's kind of peace of mind extra that we both have taken on part-time jobs. After I took 13 or 14 months off, and my wife took close to a year off, and she was volunteering at her kid's school, and they offered her an opportunity. So that's kind of the full picture of how we piece together an income. But to answer your question, Mindy, yes, like we can live off of that, $80,000 a year in cash flow. Having part-time jobs gives us the ability to not have to be so down to the penny on the budget, and a little more directionally accurate, rather than having the monthly budget meeting and making sure we're, very disciplined and specific on all the expenses.
I hear what you're saying with that. I'm going to note that we are recording this on April 9th, which is in the middle of the stock market going down consistently. I think it was down 20% over the year at the close of business yesterday, which takes us into a bear market. How do you feel about that statement, coupled with you could live off this 80,000 and you have a part-time job and you're watching your stocks go down? How does it feel to be financially independent in this situation, since you're you're so new to being FI, and the 4% rule works except in periods of high inflation, which we have been in the past. And it doesn't not work then, but it prolonged periods of high inflation is when your nest egg starts to go away. So how does all that feel in your situation right now?
Yeah, the first thought that I have is there was, I think a handful of years ago, Schwab did a study of their best performing retail accounts, and the category that performed the best were dead people, that they had died and nobody closed their account. So nobody's tinkering, buying, selling, or touching the investments. So I think of that, of like, invest like someone who lost their login, of just, we're past the season where we have to sell things to live off of. Like, I'm not selling right now. I'm a net buyer. It doesn't matter. And there was this thought, I wanted to thread the needle of, like, say market comes off, treasury yields go down, mortgage rates come down while we're selling a house. And then like it stays down when we get that house sold, and like, then I can buy at a lower basis. That isn't holding to be true because treasuries are up today. But there is kind of that, like, I'm not going to log in. I'm not going to check it. I don't want to freak out. I'm playing the long game, but I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, I'm watching CNBC more than I have in the past.
I'm curious what is going to happen every time there is a market dip. And I think dip isn't the right word to use here, but I'm going to use it anyway. Every time there's a market dip, people say, oh my goodness, this is different. And this time might be different, but it might not be different. There's a lot of things that you can still do to, hedge your bets and, stay the course. I would not encourage anybody to sell right now unless that was already in your plan. What sort of cash reserves do you have, if you don't mind me asking? It just in terms of like annual spending.
48,000 is the balance right now. And then we've got what's probably 210-ish in the after-tax brokerage account. That's all just VTSAX. And then we do have approximately like another 300,000 or so in SEP and Roth IRAs as well, if you want to count that.
Do you think there's a point where you would try to access your contributions to the Roth IRA?
No, not right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do think that it is the sort of situation, as I look at it, of, it's a long-term, slow and steady wins the race. What's happening now, like this month, next month, whatever, I'll do my best to shrug it off. And I did, when I sold my business last year, I kind of allocated, what I wanted to invest, about half of it into real estate and half of it into equities, or, VTSAX. And like all of last year, I felt like a moron as it was, screaming up 25%. I'm like, why did I buy this real estate that's such a hassle? And I got to fix this and do this and deal with tenants. And now I'm like, oh, that's why. This is why.
Diversification really matters. Is there any other advice that you give for someone kind of winging their journey to FI like you did?
Just be kind to yourself and be patient. It takes forever. It really does. And yeah, I think there's like that, and this is not an original thought, but the realization of, oh, wow, this exists. People do this. And then that long-term grind of year after year, you're accumulating a little bit more wealth and a little bit more wealth. So just be patient, be kind to yourself, and try not to do it alone.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Travis, thank you so much for your time today. This was a lot of fun. Is there any place that people can find you online?
No, on purpose. I keep a low profile.
I like that answer. I really like that answer. There's so much noise in the world. I love that. All right. Well, if you would like to chat with Travis, you can email Mindy at BiggerPockets.com or you can email Amberly at BiggerPockets.com. All right. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more inspiring fire videos just like Travis's. This is Mindy and Amberly signing off.